It's on, yeah.
Okay, right on. Well, how you doing, Chris?
Good, you?
I'm doing all right. I know we already did the hello thing, but that's good introduction.
Yeah,
Formalities.
there you go. Who's who, right?
Who's who? Exactly. Hello, goodbye, I'm late, I'm late, I'm late.
Yeah.
um, but I think that's part of like planning and order too. Well, you have to have certain formalities, welcome people or greet people, and because we're all in a rush and you forget some of this stuff, little things.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, or you can forget to, even acknowledge people as people.
oh, exactly. I was just talking about that. How we used to. I think we were talking about that, both of us. How it used to be friends with people and have to do business, and now how there's so much removal between the sales and everything. Just here's my money. Here's my money. You know,
Yeah.
produce it for me. So, and I think that's part of the removal of the whole relationship. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're getting off tangent. Really bad at that.
Well,
Order, chaos. There's a good, quite a few symbols. Do you? Here's the other thing. Do you think there's some order in chaos? There's no absolute chaos.
well, I guess it depends on if the chaos was created.
Yeah. Well, you can make what is it? The imperfect sling. Have you ever seen that with two joints on it, where you hold it up and then it'll spin differently every single time?
Yeah.
Um,
Or you can make the abacus balls. You can make them off balance, and then they hit differently every single time instead of going straight back and forth like they're supposed to do.
Absolutely, and I think that's a good point. Interactions, and that's what a good part of it. There is interactions in chaos, um,
Well,
and go ahead.
with interactions, if you don't act the way somebody expects you to act or society expects you to act, then it's called chaos, and chaos can form out of that too.
Yeah, absolutely, the mystery or the you're odd. I was actually talking to someone. I get called odd often, believe it or not. um, but how if you offer a service and you're really nice to someone and they don't understand it, they'll be more often standoffish because they can't understand, well, what do you want out of the deal? You know?
Yeah.
And where if you were to ask a favor, a small favor, even a cup of sugar, now that makes you in debt to them, and that's more understandable. Even if it's the small asking for a pencil in that relationship, isn't that kind of cat? Because you need it too. Like it's not saying you should just not be prepared.
Yeah, or it's even that it could be causing a confusion if you ask societies for things in general. Like here where I'm at, if you talk to somebody you don't know, they look at you like you have two heads.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I get that all the time. And sometimes they're really good interactions, and sometimes they are what they are. But I always try to get a giggle out of it, if not give them one. But that's the thing too. Like just day-to-day lives, we're in a rush. So we have plans, we have structure, but in that path, like there's things that happen, and especially if you're not being aware. Some really awesome things. Just I don't know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, sometimes if things that may be considered chaos might not be chaos, and might become structured as well.
But yeah. Well, I don't think anything is like I've had too many coincidental moments in my life. It's just very odd that it happened. So I accept it for what it is. It's a small world. But I think trying to make sense of chaos is a futility sometimes in itself. You can't rationalize everything. So it's being able to handle chaos. It shows more about the structure, the person.
Well, that's interesting. You said you can't rationalize everything. What do you think about those people that try and rationalize everything? Do you think that they're just chaos creators?
Possibly. Possibly.
Sometimes chaos is there to for adaptation. Like we find inside nature and environments that when chaos hits into our atmosphere, the animals react in certain ways to survive, and then it causes a new breed or new species to come out. Like with certain frogs, if for some reason the males die, then the females become male, or if the male or if the females die, then the males become female in order to survive.
Absolutely. But and then another thing, I was just reading a book about this very thing, and we can talk about order and chaos and life and death all day, but try to tell some of this stuff to a dying child or something like that along those things, and that's a very hard thing. What do you say? I have an answer, and I agreed with the book, so I'm kind of biased.
Mm. Well, for people who are dying, you really don't want to talk about order and chaos. You would want to be more sensitive to them and their needs. And basically, when they're dying, I find that you let them talk and you just kind of be there to let them know you're listening more than gabbing.
Yes, absolutely. But sometimes people want to be. They're listening and looking for answers, and they just don't know. What the book talked about is like remind them that there is something strong in them. They are here, and keep your hopes up, have good times, and it's just a very hard place. It it absolutely is, and we're all destined to go there at one point.
Yeah, like when I do the hospital ministry there, the chaplain for the hospital, we don't really. I try and avoid talking about God. Really, I let them lead, and then I'm trying to make it out and like connection with them. And then if they go down that path or say something, like sometimes they will if they know that you're the chaplain on duty or something like that. Then the door is open, because you're basically down there, they're gonna die and they're going through some things. So you don't want to add fuel to the fire. Like if they don't believe in God, you don't want to upset them and make them feel uncomfortable. You want to make them as comfortable as possible.
Yep, absolutely. And just sometimes talking about some of their experiences, how their life, and just listening. That's a big one. I try to ask questions and see how they're doing, put a smile on their face. It may be small, and that's, you gotta be careful, because it is a very vulnerable place for them. Actually, I was just talking to someone that was taking care of their mother. That's all I'm going to say about that. And I'm taking care of someone myself. And like, I don't know, Dallas, if you'd be the type to wipe my butt. I'm like, why not? I did that already before once, It's like, don't you feel like it's a little demeaning? I'm like, I think everybody's a little embarrassed at that point. But it's like, thank you. And they're normally tired at that point too. And if they're in a good place, they're like, thank you. Just try to.
Yeah, we joke. Sometimes my wife and I joke around about that, about who's going to be old first and change each other's diapers.
Can't reach down, just kind of move this way, and you figure out a way to get through. And I think that's a big part of it too, is being able to smile and the little things, and goes right back to that. And it's
that's exactly
easier said than done.
I mean, going back to the order and chaos thing. I mean, when somebody's at that point, they're in chaos. So in order to bring them order, you kind of have to just help them along. And sometimes as when you're talking to them and stuff, and then they will ask questions about the other things, and you don't even have to bring it up. They kind of lead, and when they lead, then the chaos goes away, and they kind of calm down, and they get order back because they're the ones that actually are working through it in their own minds, because you're letting them lead and go through their thoughts.
Absolutely. I heard I don't forget where I hear this from. Velvet Steel. Be soft but firm, because you're being there as support for them.
Right, right. And you don't ever want to, or you don't ever want to lie to them, like say, "Oh yeah, you're gonna live," if you know that they're gonna. I mean, I see lots of people like starting off and doing that stuff, and they make that mistake because they want to try. They think it's gonna help them if they have hope, but you're not really helping them. You're doing more harm than good. You never want to. You want to be truthful and honest and with them as much as you can.
Genuine as possible. And the other thing is, a lot of people rush to their answers. I take the time just to kind of listen, and then try to be very careful with the words I use. Be very genuine. A lot of times it comes naturally.
Yeah.
And you feel it out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one way to create chaos. If you don't listen to the other person and then you just talk and gab, you're creating a problem because you're not really letting you're not making the person feel good, and the person knows you're not listening to them, and also B, you're not addressing the issue because you don't know what the issue is. You're too busy talking with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to ask questions. That's a big thing I do. I ramble a bit too much, I feel sometimes. But I don't feel like I'm talking at people. Would you agree? Talking at someone, okay. Verbally masturbating. That's another term. Or word vomiting. I really hate word vomit. But those are all chaotic things. You're trying to just baffle the other person, essentially.
There's a good thought. You think sometimes you get pressured into chaos. I think people talk too much because they think they're pressured into it.
Yeah. Or they don't know. It goes back to the path. What do we talk about? We could talk about any number of different avenues, and without knowing where you're going or what's going on, that's pure chaos. So you gotta it's like trying to find out where to go without having a path or a map or anything else. It's just every direction.
And you can't just have one-way streets. I mean, eventually somebody has to come up the other side. I mean, a good example is here, they like to park on both sides of the road. So if you're trying to come up the street and somebody's coming up the other way, it's not going to work. You're going to hit each other. You have to let somebody go, and then you go. But if you make it a one-way street and you're constantly just going, eventually you're going to hit something, which is what you do. You're going to cause chaos. It's all about you and not about them. And then that person's just not going to want to do anything. It's going to be a collision course.
Right. And that's, I think, the other part of it too is knowing yourself. Because if you know yourself, you can really share and be able to be in that spot, and it doesn't take so much work, and it just kind of happens. And it's a very difficult thing to do sometimes, is be able to look at that mirror and look at the different aspects of yourself and how they portray to other people, or the things you've done in your life and your experiences, all those different facets of us.
Yeah, what is us anyway?
Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's why I kind of did the whole Mad Hatter. When you start taking off all the different hats you wear, or the masks, and they start coming down, you get down to, who am I, really? And I think that's the real good journey. Like, we should take some time every day, if you can, even if the most chaotic day you have, take about 10 minutes in the morning or 10 at night, whenever moment you can, and try to, either be wild and be yourself and break away, or just contemplate, the different parts of who you are, good attributes. I think we are all awesome. I love that Lego moment. Everything is awesome, but it has good story to it too. With the super glue locking down the whole world, everything has to reside in order. And if you break out of that, and I get it to a certain point, we fear what we don't understand, and it's natural, like to fear that kind of stuff because we don't know what to expect. Anything can come out of it, and it can be a very dangerous, chaotic place. I think it doesn't mean there is no. Go ahead.
I think we also can fear when we realize we don't really know or understand a lot. I mean, us as humans, we don't really understand much. We just think we understand much, and then that develops a false sense of confidence if you find out how much you really don't understand and don't know about your surroundings.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's where you need to have that healthy structure, and it's individual to every single person, which are our whys, what motivates us, and why do we do the things we do. And when we really do look at this stuff, it brings order to our lives because it makes more sense. It sometimes we are forced to make sacrifices for certain things that we do want in our lives. Yeah, that's the whole, journey, the whole balance between the two.
I guess that's another thing to look at too, right? If you fall into chaos, how do you restore order? I mean, some people might look at what the chaos they created and feel guilty about it, right? And get inside the trap of trying to make good for it, but then they never get out of the chaos. So constantly trying to make good for it, making more chaos along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing, sometimes chaos, that's part of the cards we were given. Those are the experience we've had. We didn't get a choice. There's no bad, you can't beat yourself up on it, and you can't really, well, you can, and but you're not gonna benefit too much. Self-destructive behavior is never a good thing.
You can't get back to order by making more chaos.
More chaos, yeah. And yeah. So finding order from the chaos, and trying to understand something, so it can transform and have structure, because that's where we can start rationalizing things and using it as a benefit, maybe not, but we can at least grow past it and learn to let go, really.
So, I mean, I'm trying to go back and going back and forth. Do you think it has a neutral?
Oh yeah, I absolutely believe there's a neutral, but I don't think there's an absolute true neutral. I think it's individual for every single person, and it's nobody. If you're not harming someone else or anyone, yourself, or at a certain point, you should be able to try to find happiness and make a way that you can contribute to your, people close to you, or have good relationships and interact with your surroundings. Make a difference.
Yeah, I was going back to that car analogy. I mean, I find that sometimes people try and get out of the chaos by either going forward, which creating more chaos, or trying to go backwards and reverse the steps to fix the chaos. But I always ask them, well, did you ever try and putting the car into neutral? And then they're like, well, what do you mean? They're like, did you ever try not just to sit back and examine it and do nothing and see your way through rather than constantly doing something and making more obstacles for you to overcome in the process? I mean, you don't want to coast. I mean, you don't want to get stuck in the trap and coast forever. But I mean, when you can see which way you're going, maybe sometimes you can get things back in order rather than just always doing and racing and stressful with doing.
absolutely. And I think a lot of that is chaos that it hasn't even happened yet. Worrying about what's that upcoming car, or the churn, and not focusing on where you're exactly at, or anything that happened, where you've been. It's really just being there and understanding the vehicle you're driving, probably, and not dwelling there too much, keeping going down the road.
Exactly. Do you have it on automatic, or do you have a standard?
What?
Yeah, exactly. Do you have it automatic, or do you have a standard? Do you have to shift gears, or can you just drive along and go?
Absolutely. And that is understanding the chaos. That's understand everything, but you can work on what is going on around you. And if you're able to drop a lot of the things that are coming up and just be there, you can be more aware of what's going on around you. Everything's a little bit less. I mean, you still won't understand everything. And I don't think anybody on the earth can understand every point. You'd soon know every particle in the universe, but if you did, you'd know all their possibilities. Would you be able to even tell the future then?
Not really, because everything's always changing. There'll be something. There'll be something that you'll miss.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I always liked some of those future movies. Like, even if you knew an event was going to happen, just by knowing, it would change things. I think it was Inception. No, it was the one where they had psychics or whatever. Tom Cruise was in it.
Yeah.
It was an interesting comment. Interesting. Hey, Colapool, what up? We're talking about order and chaos today with Chris. He's on the other side of the rock.
Hey, how you doing? The other side of the rock, huh?
Yeah, other side. Pretty much. No, that would be Australia.
Yeah.
It's pretty close, though.
Yeah, my toilet doesn't flush backwards. Not yet, anyway.
But yeah, we're talking about order and chaos and being able to grow from it. We've had a good conversation so far. I think let's talk about the opposite now. Like, if we had absolute sterile order and be able to cut out all chaotic elements, are practically impossible. I think that individual or circumstances is good either. It develops issues.
Yeah.
I think the mix of the two, and it's really the mix of the two, and you can't have absolute control, and you can't, and just knowing where you're at. So what would absolute chaos or absolute order look to you? Like, if you had something like
absolute order?
Yeah. Like, I always think of like fractals or the Mandelbrot set, because it can go down to infinite or up, or a Mobius strip, where it's defined, still kind of infinite, just not on so many planes.
I think if we had absolute order, life would be pretty boring. I think everybody would look the same.
Yeah. Be
kind of like robotic, kind of like in the Matrix,
Yeah. But I think even in, like, if you had any kind of different variables, I can't even think of any real living thing that is absolute order. Hey, Shadow Sally, I cannot talk. That's my mama had She's in the chat.
Moo, how are you? Yeah, I would think that even microscopic platelets have some kind of differences in them. I mean, even the ones that they say they don't have brains. I forget what they're called though, but they're like the little worm things with the teeth. They live on your skin and everything. They're everywhere. You can't even see them. They're microscopic. But
the little
but even them have some kind of order. They have a function and they know what to do and they do their function. I think you find order everywhere, but I think that you also find genetical flaws too, where people where they act out of their order because something in their DNA was off. But I think maybe that as we go through life, we can kind of pick up these genetical flaws, because as we go through life, we can pick up bad habits, and that can throw our order off unless we change them in the way we would act and behave off.
Absolutely. Also, I was talking about this with someone else because we have GMOs now, genetically modified food. Right, and it produces more, grows bigger, whatever. But we've had selective breeding for a while. We pick the cattle that would produce more milk or have bigger muscle tones. They've already shown that genetic code can be translated by the things that we consume from like plants to Captain. Ooh, I just got a notification. Sheeps are good. Thank you for the follow. Awesome username.
Yeah, and we're talking about the animals right now, so there we go. It fits in.
Yeah. So I think we've totally been gradually modifying our genetic code by selective breeding our food and stuff like that. There's definitely a relationship there, some kind of order, result from doing that. So I don't think you can ever escape absolute order as well.
I don't know. I think I don't even think though that there will be absolute order, because I don't think us messing with our genetic codes by putting these things inside our food is order. I think that's a form of chaos, because we're messing with something that's outside of the design of what something's meant to do.
I think our DNA has already been doing that though, and we genetically modify plants to a point where the colors of the seed isn't dyed. It's genetically made to be this color so it doesn't get mixed in.
Right.
And I feel like that is also altering, our genetic code. Like anytime we don't need to alter it directly, that's already been happening.
So I guess.
And then should how direct should we mess around with that stuff? It is a question, because it's coming eventually.
Yeah, that's the question I was gonna ask. Seeing how this is how much are we gonna accept this chaos, or do we find this chaos acceptable? If we find this chaos acceptable, how much of this chaos are we gonna allow?
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Like with chaos and mutations and stuff, I have a friend that has a child that they will have to be taken care of their entire life. I've talked with him. He's a good young gentleman, but that's a very hard thing to think about. Is someone that's especially locked-in syndrome and stuff like that, where you have to have an iron lung always. So I don't know, and that's part of chaos too. So it's like the whole, not even life and death, but it's
there's another question. If you're doing stuff like that, like you have to have an iron lung, or you're on life support or something to stay alive, are you creating chaos by altering the time frame that you have to prolong it longer?
Yeah. Or what happens if we were able to understand from birth that if you're going to have this particular genetic code, you're going to have this attribute.
Yeah.
And just altering it and changing it. I mean, we already cloned sheep. We got sheep here. So it's, I don't know how I feel. I'm going to have a cigarette, talk about chaos.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think lab rats have already proven how we should feel about that. I mean, they tried to, when they tried to genetically clone humans, they tried to create lab rats, but then the lab rats they created were exact replica, and they thought everything was fine, but then the next day they all ate each other, and they all attacked each other and went crazy and killed each other. So is that fine because it appeared fine, it looked fine, or was that wrong because they ate each other and killed each other?
Exactly. Well, you speak of rats. Have you ever heard of Ratopia? Since we're talking about order and chaos, Ratopia is like right up there, so it's perfect.
What's
You've never heard of it?
No.
Oh, great. I got to tell you about this thing. So there's a whole documentary on it where this guy had a big chunk of land and made a huge, huge place with all these condos, plenty of housing, plenty of food, mutual could get to it. And they introduced these rats to it, like a couple different families of rats, so they would have a genetic, difference. It should have been fine, right? And it would. What do you think happened to the population?
They probably all died.
Well, eventually. But what happened at first, it had a bell curve, straight spike. And then it would hit this point, and it would plateau out. And it wasn't because of lack of housing or lack of food. It was literally what was going on in the culture between the rats. So there would be rats that would hoard housing. There would be rats that would hoard food. There would be rats doing normal things that you wouldn't normally see in just rats in the wild. There would be, this is where the beautiful people came from on Marilyn Manson's song. The beautiful ones, and they called it beautiful. All they would do is spend time grooming themselves. And that's all they would do. It would take up all their time. And so much, they would never look out for a mate.
Well, I mean, we see that inside our culture, don't we? I mean, look at the rich people that spend all their time pampering themselves, and look at all the crazy things that they do. When they do these crazy things, is that order? Is that chaos? Or what is that? And why are they doing these crazy things? Is it too busy pampering themselves, and they can't see anything other than themselves, or what?
Yeah, and there was they would kill each other to a point that the whole civilization would die. It wouldn't just be a little bit. It'd be like the fall of Rome. It'd crash quicker than it accelerated.
Did you know that?
Wild.
Did you know that though? We're kind of doing that to ourselves. Like right now, in order to maintain the population that we need on this planet, everybody has to have 2 children. And currently here in Germany, everybody's having 1.5 kids, so the population is declining. And basically, if you look at other parts of the world, even inside the States, the States is just averaging the 2 kids. So you're going to keep the same population just by a marginal difference. So we're kind of declining our population because we're too busy to be consumed with stuff as well. I mean, we're not reproducing because we're too consumed with stuff.
Yeah, we're going to have the opposite of the baby boomer.
Yeah.
But, understanding it, though, and what's going on is probably the best thing. Understanding the chaos, is probably the only way to move past it. And it's not that we don't have enough housing. We have plenty of housing. We have plenty of food to feed people, plenty of land, and I think a lot of it has to do with education and the type of education. We haven't changed our schooling system since the industrial era, and it shows.
Well, actually, the school system has changed, though. If you think about it, I mean, the high school diploma used to be the thing, but now everybody has high school diploma. So now you have to have a college degree. So now college degree is basically the new high school diploma. So now you have to get a bachelor's or a master's or something like that, and it would just stick out. So pretty soon, the bachelor's would be the new high school.
And we've
diploma.
already shown that colleges, at least in the U.S., are mainly a business, and they don't care if you go into debt into the poorhouse. They really don't.
Exactly.
So I feel like the education system needs to be revamped. We used to go from one school, a school teacher would bring you through the entire thing, but also you had time to be learned from your parents. You could live off of one income. That's not a case anymore.
Yeah, or the school used to be free because somebody would just want the kids to be taught that somebody from the community would go teach inside, and it would be inside the church or whatever. The kids would gather and they would teach.
But then again, what's being taught, and are the right structures being put in? And it's individual for every person. Everyone learns different. That's why I always like the saying that it takes a community to raise a child.
Which is why I think
a
lot of people look down on homeschooling and stuff, but I think homeschooling works good because then you can find out how the child learns and do that the way that they learn. Because the teachers have so many kids inside the class that they don't care about how the child learns. They just, I want to teach it this way, and you're going to get it, and you're not going to get it.
I see 50-50 on that one. I see a different side of it. I see a lot of people too busy to trying to feed their kids to teach, and they don't understand. Mm-hmm. And it's not anything that they don't like their kids. They're just their brain, so overworked or wanting, this or that because of expectations from its society. And I think that's a big part of it as well. It's trying to, and then who dictates this stuff? Then we're getting more structure involved.
Well, it's already getting to that way. I mean, look at all these online schools. Who controls that? If you're really doing the work or just putting answers on a paper?
Absolutely. And that's why I didn't go to college, because I never really was good at the... I read tons of books, but I can't do an essay to save the life. I'm a horrible planner. But a good brainstormer and thinker. I think we should go back to like the middle ground. There should be more classes in government things if they're showing skills and putting it out there for people to use these skills in different job fields, and you're able to show your work and even do random tests, that those employment agencies would look upon that as well. We can both mutually profit from it. And that's the idea. Can you do the job? Starting a new job is hard because it's always different.
That's another thing too that we changed. It used to be that you used to be able to show that that if you could do the work to somebody, that they would hire you. Now you need papers and before they even look at you, or you need to pass an interview before they even look at you. It used to be that you could learn on the job training, and people actually would test your skills. Now nobody actually tests your skills. So when you go to work, they're like, "What do you do? How come you don't know what you're doing?" "Oh, wait, I didn't test you."
Yeah. Well, not just that too. Depending on what application like you're using it for, it can be different machines, different UIs, user interfaces, and that's getting into. Did you ever? We've all been in school. The day that was like, oh, the new kid Dallas is here. All right, please stand up and tell us a little bit about yourself. Hi, I'm Dallas. Who am I again? Oh yeah. So it kind of putting yourself out there, and I think that's part of the whole. There's nobody like I talk to a lot of musicians too that've been playing for like 30 years. It's still gets in the back of their head, am I enough? Can I do this? Even though they've been doing it forever.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
think,
I mean,
yeah,
even people that like that preach and stuff on Sundays have that because it's public speaking. I mean, even if you've been doing it for a long time, you always think, am I gonna be able to do this clearly enough? Are people gonna understand me? Am I gonna mumble? Am I gonna blow my nose at the wrong
yeah.
part or
Oh no,
whatever?
yeah, my nose, it has to itch right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, and then everybody's judging,
Yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah.
think, yeah, you didn't meet their expectations. Oh no. I like stuff like that happen. Some of the best comedy and natural, genuine stuff happens out of chaos. Um, there was this bit, and it was an old black and white. I forget who did it. He did the Squirrel Revival and stuff like that. It's old black and white. And they had a horse on stage. And if you've ever had an animal on stage or worked with an animal, they'll do whatever, an animal does right there. So this horse took a dump
Yeah.
right in the middle of the stage.
Yeah.
Started talking about, well, I guess glue form for you. Your acting career's done, and just kind of felt it out, went on.
Yeah,
And,
that used to happen when I used to go to a circus when I was a kid. The elephants would be doing their tricks and you just drop one right on the trainer or something.
Yep. Train of shit. Shit train. Doesn't work either. Oh well.
Or even better nowadays, the ones where the animals actually eat their trainer in front of everybody.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I get nervous anytime I see some wild animal and they're doing tricks. I'm like, all it takes is a little mistake that day. Hopefully they were fed well. Actually, the last live performance of animals I saw was they had a retreat that had big property for them, and they would rotate. So that way it was an interaction thing. It wasn't so much it's time to perform. It was playtime. We're going through the routine. And I think that's a big part of the order from the chaos. Understanding, having a daily routine or small little bits and finding structure in that. Since I am pagan, so I used to have an altar when I was younger. Crystal on it. Actually, I still have the crystal. And I would have it laid all out, just like an altar.
Why did you choose amethyst?
Amethyst? This one was a gift.
Oh, okay.
Most of my stuff that I've had is just come to me, or it's been a gift for helping out people. I like the whole idea you don't buy stuff. It's just comes to you. You have this altar and it would be ordered, you have it all set up, and then someone comes up and is like, oh, this is pretty, what's this? Well, you touched it now, I'll set that back later. So I started doing an altar in my head. So I lived with people, you can't control everything. And that was my peace. That was my little space. And I had objects put away, but those objects would be on my altar. And I would take a moment to try to find my peace, find my order, and then move on with my day. That's how I found peace. And I think there's a lot of peace in order. Boring. We talked about this earlier. I heard an Oriental curse. I mentioned this. I hope you live in interesting times.
Yeah. I don't know, but I think maybe sometimes though, if we do like how you talk about the order, like you have your stuff and everything. I think sometimes if we get too involved in the order, and that can create chaos too. Because then if you know something that's missing out of place, you might get distracted, and then you might be like, oh, that has to get fixed. Or you might get anxious even about it, or like, oh wait, it should be over there. Then you're taking too much time in that one spot when you should be doing something else, and you're missing what you really should be doing.
I think that's part of letting go too. Fixed. What's fixed? It's the healthy mix of the two, order and chaos. It's and digesting that and being there, but you gotta have some kind of structure, some kind of peace, or you'll go insane.
Yeah, exactly. Or you just have that one person that comes in that likes to destroy. Like what you were talking about. The person comes in and says, "Oh yeah, you just moved that." Like I had somebody that came in. I just recently got promoted from youth pastor to like an assistant pastor. I had the new office. I had it all set up the way I wanted it. And then I had this person come in that wanted to talk to me about something. He came in, he pulls the chair, he hits the coat rack over behind him, and then he comes in, grabs stuff on the desk, and starts playing with everything while he's talking.
Playing with everything.
Yeah, and then everything's all like papers are everywhere and everything. After I just set everything up the way I wanted it, and by the time he's done leaving.
Yeah, I actually I seen this a couple times in role playing. This guy, we had a new player, and he didn't like the story, he didn't like the DM, and he just walked in and is like, "Oh, time to lace up my game wrecking boots," because he was just going to min-max and wasn't there just to cause havoc. Everybody else wants to go this way, well, I want to go this way, instead of interacting with people.
Yeah, you always have that one that doesn't know how to follow.
Yeah, well, and I don't think everyone should be able to play their character unique, but you have to stay somewhat on task in some kind of interaction.
Yeah, but even if you're playing your character uniquely, every character has a role. So like, if you're playing a tank, you have to follow the tank. If you don't follow the tank, you do your own thing, and you're just a squishy little mage. You're gonna get killed, and then when you die, the team's gonna suffer for that.
Yeah, well, I've played in quite a few different campaigns. One of my funnest campaigns, everyone was really upset at the end, except for me. I laughed my ass off. I wasn't the DM. So we had this thief in the party, and for the whole campaign, it went for about 2 months. No, not a super long campaign. Apparently, it was an assassin that had to kill the party leader. And they just start walking away from the rest of the party to go scout. And he's like, "Roll for flat-footed." And the DM looks at it. "Why is he announcing it? Do it." "Oh, off the cliff he goes." And he just walks away. Like, it's perfectly good plan and everything, but and he had another campaign lined up right after that one that he was working on. But it was just random events. It was little silly stuff, not a lot of depth to the story, just a filler campaign.
Okay, yeah.
And I played with these guys for quite a few years.
I guess after a while, that's another thing too about we're talking about order chaos. I guess after a while, things are interesting to people anymore. They try and make it interesting again.
Yeah, exactly. But I think. Yeah. Oh, at the expense of something? Yeah. Why to do that though? Why would someone want to do it? I talked about he was upset. He was angry that he was probably not DM. The guy with the game wrecking. He felt like he should be DM and we should be playing his game. I'm willing to bet that's what was going on, knowing more about the story. But what other reasons might someone try to cause disarray in other people's lives?
Maybe they're just jealous of that person, because I don't think people like hate people. I think there's something more behind it. So I mean they could say that I hate you, so I want to destroy you, but I think there's always something deeper behind that. So maybe they're actually jealous of the person, or like you said, maybe they're not the leader, they want to be a leader, or maybe there's something else where they just want to, or maybe they just feel like they make themselves important by doing this to somebody else, kind of like the bullies at school always do,
Yeah, and I think part of that is fear from the unknown. Like, they're outside of the normal. Oh, they're weird, they're the nerd, whatever, and that's why a lot of can't relate and have that mutual ground. And that's, I think, crucial why it happens. That and expectations. Oh, this person has this much money, they should be doing at this, because if I was them, I would be doing so much better than they are, with it. Or, and I think that's the superiority, words, seniority, no, it's not right.
Superiority?
Superiority, yep, thank you.
Yeah.
That complex. I'm holier than thou, or I'm better than thou. It is very dangerous ground to stand on. From the Bible, I always think of it is easier to pass a camel through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich person. And I don't think it has to do with wealth. And we're getting off topic again a little bit. But I don't think that has to do with wealth. I think it has to do with taking what we've learned and sharing that with people and trying to tear down some of these barriers, and not by tearing down anyone else's barriers, but by putting ourselves out there and defeating that dragon of chaos. It's not all dragon of chaos. Well, dragon of chaos.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like getting back to what you were talking about earlier, the video game thing. Oh, this boss is going to be really hard or whatever, and then you go in there, and he's really a little tiny mouse, and everybody's like, whoa, what just happened?
Eat all the side quests first. But that one too, I always worry about. It's like, okay, I've been beating these big bosses, and now I'm coming against someone that's normal stature. That worries me a little bit. Did I get a whole bunch of health packs right before this happened?
Yeah, there you go. It's kind of like the booby traps come out of the floor or something.
Absolutely. Got to be careful about booby traps.
Yeah.
And there's traps. Like, I think that's part of traps in the darkness. It's not the darkness itself, but the not knowing the path through. You can fall into easy traps. But if you know who you are and you can better judge situations, it's easier to.
I think if you're creating the darkness, like if you walk around with your eyes shut, you have to just open your eyes. I think you should find the booby traps a lot easier that way.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that anything else we can talk about order and chaos. Talked about health and order and chaos.
What about
events?
What about scientific chaos?
Scientific chaos? Only absolute order would be completely sterile. It couldn't have really any structure unless you had, because even in metal and atomic structures, actually, here's one. As iron particles line up, they start developing a magnetic field. Because we're on a giant magnet. So, as they line up, a magnetic field happens.
Yeah, like the sun. If the sun gets close enough to the earth, you can actually pull it inside of it.
Yep. Gravity is what is actually the weak force compared to magnetism, and the best way I heard it actually explained that I rationalized it is that they're both equal forces. All the forces nuclear were equally strong at one time. Gravity is just farther away on dimensional thing. And matter kinda is like the penetrator through the dimensions, that it bends the well of space and stuff.
Yeah, if the matter's, if it's dense enough, it can break through the particles. Yes. Not all matter though can do that though. It only has to be dense enough. The not so dense ones would just bounce off and reflect.
Well, all mass. Like if we took, like, got far enough away, or we were in a free fall and we had two tennis balls, they would slowly pull each other.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. Okay.
It's just influenced by everything. That too, I try to think of order of space-time. As mass rests on space, our gravity, a lot of people think of as, well, the Earth's pulling me down. But it's more of space is pushing us down to the center of mass. Same function, just different way of thinking about it, I guess.
Yeah.
So that there's a couple orders in chaos, but I still stand by the absolute order would be sterile, completely nothing to really, because then you would have boundaries, you would have structure, and it would have to end somewhere, unless we have an infinite lattice that folded in on itself. It would have to have some edge.
Yeah, but I don't know though, even if you could ever have that, because I mean, even if you had something sterile, I'm sure there would be somebody when it comes to scientific stuff that would want to prove you wrong, and then they would create chaos again.
Yeah. Here's another one. We have globes buried underneath the Earth, filled with something. I forget what's inside them, and we have sensors around them. And every once in a while, they'll have these subparticles they're trying to read. And every once in a while, it'll zip through there and we'll catch it. We don't, know much about them, and it hasn't gone off yet, but it could, trying to catch subparticles, essentially. Which is still a wild idea.
Trying to time travel.
Yeah, time travel. Yeah, have subspace go faster than light, but I don't think that's light is a constant. It's just measured as it passes through space. How can you measure something without space in itself? It's to a weird thought thing. And horizons.
Yeah, but what if it's just relative?
Yeah. That's true as well. Like if we were both, they have. I was watching PBS Space Time for a good minute. Is if I started chasing away and going as fast as I could you ever catch up to me? Or no, here's a better one. If we had a string between me and you, and we both accelerated as fast as we could, would the string break? Would the string contract back together, or would it stay the same?
We'll find the same. It would snap back to its original form.
From what I hear, since it's a measurement of effort, the string would snap. Because there'd actually be a space difference.
So how does it explain it then when actually it pulls tight and both people fall down?
We're talking about like as if like we were following each other, going one right after the other.
You're not going opposite. You're going toward each other, like.
Yeah, we're going in the same direction.
Okay.
Because entropy is going to be different for me and you as we get up to speed. It's weird. It's really weird. They have a graph for it. I'm failing at explaining it well.
No, I think it would make sense that it would snap because eventually the molecules in between would pull it farther back as we ran faster, and then it would put the tension on it, and then it would just break it.
Yeah, it has to do with entropy, and then it's like the idea if I was going away from this direction and then immediately turned around and tried to come back, there's no way I would ever get back to where I was, where I could see my own light. Essentially, you go off the scale.
Right.
It's this weird thing, really weird concept. And then, talking about order and chaos, here's the other one. It's a real moral question. Let's say teleporters did exist, right? Star Trek teleporters. We could take you and completely disintegrate you, but somewhere else we're going to print you. We already have all the stuff that needed to make you, as in the electronic dance that's going on in your brain. You wouldn't be an empty shell. I'm just going to say perfect replica. Would it still be you because it has all of the same synapses going on? Or would it be someone else, like a twin?
It wouldn't still be me because it wouldn't have the soul.
I'm on the same page with you, but it's definitely an interesting thought idea. Is like because it might be possible too. That's the other thing. Totally might be possible.
Well, it already was possible, right? Because they can clone tissues. Like they can make another finger for you if you could lose your finger. So they can clone your tissue in that. But then when they sewn the finger onto the person, though, it didn't. The person didn't recognize it as his finger. It felt like the finger was still falling off. And then when they tried to use it, it didn't function like his original finger. It looked like his finger. It had the same maybe ligament, tendons, whatever as the finger, but it didn't function properly because the brain didn't recognize it as the finger.
Right. Or is that somewhere we're failing on nerve endings and or something in the head? As well. Here's the other thing about ideas and order. Belief in placebos. You've heard of, you know what placebos are.
Yeah.
Have you heard of placebnopes?
No, what's a nope?
A nope, basically the same thing as a placebo, but it won't work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they've shown those are very true as well. If you believe something hard enough, it's not gonna, the beneficial factors are gonna be very little, if any. Some of the time. It's not 100%. I think it's more common though than placebos.
It worked with sugar cubes in the war. They gave them sugar cubes. Told them there was a brand new medicine when they ran out of medicine supplies, and the soldier was like, "Oh yes, yeah, really great." And they actually wanted that over the real medicine. When the real medicine shipment came in, they asked for the other stuff back, saying it worked better. It was the sugar.
Yep. I heard about 2 different stories. One of them, this guy was on an experimental cancer research. It brand new. He tried it, had amazing recovery. Nothing worked before, and he got really well. He got well. And then he read a news article saying it was all bogus. It didn't work at all. Within a short period of time, he died after that.
Yeah, it's all bogus.
So it's...
Which is true when people tell you you're gonna die and you weren't gonna die, then you start to die. Like if the doctor told you every day that he came in, you're gonna die, and all you have is just like a cut on your finger, you would eventually deteriorate and die.
That's why I like to say I've had a lot of near misses in my life. I'm immortal until death proves me otherwise. I'm stubborn enough to, keep on going.
Yeah, keep on fighting.
Yep, keep on fighting, and that's a good fight too. So the other one I heard, it was a guy from Vsauce. He has a YouTube Red Premium thing. You should watch it. It's pretty wild. But one of them, they gave this girl, she was having an autoimmune disease. It's kind of like eczema. I forget what it's called. And she was just full of scabs, right?
Okay.
They gave her a watch, just a watch, and told her, if you looked at this, you work this app, it will help lower your thing. And I want you to remember that this is helping you. And they implanted the idea. She had such a miraculous recovery. Never, like, has ever been that low of exposure and outbreaks of her disease from a watch. So it's really interesting. Now the other question is, they have belief in outside effects too. If you believe, like, if it goes back to some of the superstitious stuff, knock on wood, so it doesn't happen. In Oriental cultures, if they have a cute baby, they won't call it a cute baby, they'll call it an ugly baby, because that way, the evil eye won't come in and swoop away their good child and leave an ugly one. How do you feel about that as well?
Yeah, I think stuff like that. I guess so to say. It doesn't mean that there's anything really happening there. It just means that you're tricking yourself into believing something.
Right. And you say a very interesting thing there too, programming. They did this study where they tried to have these two desktop. They just applied for them for a job, for a study, right? They wanted them to make a logo. And every day they went to work, and to work at the office, they would walk by a cloud. They would walk little elements, these wings. They were trying to implant an idea. A teddy bear with wings on a cloud. And, not just one, but both of them had all three elements within their logo. They weren't the same, but it was very close to their target. So it's interesting, just random things that seem chaotic are implemented. So do you think sometimes there's no such thing as original thought?
Original thought, huh? Let's see.
Original thought.
Well, maybe, I don't know. I think time's been around long enough now where probably somebody already thought you thought. You just don't know that they already thought you thought.
Yeah. But that gets into this other thing. They did this study before the internet and stuff like that, where they would have a crossword and they would release it to different areas, and these people would never talk. It was so fast between it, there's no way they could communicate. And it seemed like the more they released it to different groups, the better it would do. And they would change it up, and they even implemented the same idea with monkeys. Monkeys that were on different islands. It seemed like they were talking and getting better at it and helping, even though they weren't talking. There was no communication there. There's no way they could have interacted with each other and passed the communication. So it leads me to believe is like the whole mushroom field thing. We are all one body, even though we don't see everything. I'm a firm believer in multiple dimensions.
I mean, well, doesn't that just get back to everything out? We're all connected by one spirit. So I mean, if we're all connected by one spirit, then we can all hear, feel and hear.
I guess the question I was getting to, how do you feel about that actual ideas could be transmitted from one person to another without ever direct communication? Like some form of unconscious telepathy. Like way back in our reptilian back of our brains.
I don't know, maybe because they say that twins and stuff like that can think each other's thoughts and feel each other's thoughts and everything, but I don't know if it's really that, or if it's just that they're together with people like women when they get together. If one of them has their cycle, the other one can have their cycle early. So it's kind of like I don't know if it's just like into like seeing the thing, and the thing is seen and then it happens to you, or if it's really reading the thoughts, or maybe you hear a little drift or something and you start thinking about it, and then it becomes part of the thought, or part of the thought process or pattern.
So it's really I don't know. My beliefs on it is that there is more of an intelligence than we know about, that we are connected to something. But I do believe one thing we have in common is we both believe in God. Mm-hmm. I think our viewpoints on God might be a little different, but I think it's still the same.
Yeah. With God, we're all connected anyway through the spirit, to the spirit of God. So if we're all connected to the spirit, we can receive and talk to each other. There's ways. If you want to look at it from a spiritual viewpoint, there's a reason why somebody in Africa could wake up praying for you, not even knowing who you are. And then you can be blessed with that. You can wake up praying for somebody else without even knowing who they are.
Absolutely. And I think that's the other thing. Like, I don't pray before I eat, but I do take time to think about how that food got to my plate, the animal that gave its life, so I could consume those nutrients, as inefficiently as my body does. But taking a moment to try to reflect on that.
For me, it'd probably just be the chocolate bar.
Hey, careful! I hear cocoa's a drug. They've already proven that the chocolate releases more endorphins than a kiss from a passionate lover.
Okay.
Yeah, they've hooked people up to those helmets and had readings, and would have people that were in relationships be passionate with each other with all these I don't know how passionate you can be with electrodes on you, but I'm sure someone's into it.
Hellraiser.
Right. And then they would have people in the same room eat chocolate, and it would release more endorphins. They did the same thing with forgiveness, and we've talked about that before.
If they're doing that with chocolate, what did they say about cigarettes?
Yeah, it's a stimulant. It is. I don't think. Speaking of which, I'm gonna have one now.
There you go. You shared the thoughts.
Yeah. So I was talking with a Native American one time. We were co-workers, and we were both smoking a cigarette, and he looks at the tobacco. He's like, "This is what happens when you take something sacred out of its element." And tobacco used to be a sacred thing. Like, you'd come together and you'd smoke pipes, chocolate, tobacco. I'm not going to get too much into it, but Native Americans would roll cigars and stuff like that, and they would share it, and it would stimulate and also get you up and ready to do deals, make you friendly, a little bit more laid back, chill too.
Peace pipe, brother.
Yeah, peace pipe. So I think that gets into understanding and keeping things in a proper place, and having order and structure and understanding from the chaos, because tobacco is a very destructive. It will tear your health up. We know this.
Yeah. But like you said, like the caffeine and stuff too, coffee, all that stuff.
But it doesn't make it inherently bad, especially marijuana. I think there's a lot of stigma around marijuana. Yeah, I'm in a legal state, so Michigan, we're allowed to smoke pot here now if you're over 21. And I know a lot of people that are stressed with life or whatever, and marijuana is one of the things that can aid them to help them relax and let go and enjoy food, or any number of things. If you're going through cancer, it'll give you an appetite. They've shown that marijuana can help with asthma. I think it has to do with the coughing, getting the congestion to break up and opening the pathways. Not that, still, anytime you put any kind of carbon into your lungs, it's probably not a good thing to do too much of.
Or metal vapors from the e-cigarette.
Oh yeah, I got one of those too. That's really, it's not super new, but it's essentially a glycol. It's something we've been eating for a while, but now we're inhaling it. But yeah, that's the other thing too. They were showing, didn't get much press, obvious reasons. It talked about tobacco, but people that were smoking cigarettes were less likely to have problems with their lungs with COVID because their lungs were already brittle. The same reason why it's hard for a heart surgery if you're smoking, or surgery in general, because your tissue becomes brittle, hard. And I was thinking about that. A lot of construction workers, people that work in coal and stuff like that, they're cigarette smokers too. Getting so you don't have a lot of the other toxins coming. So, but again, cigarettes aren't good. I wish I never started. It's addictive.
I don't know if the idea of brittle lungs is good as at any capacity, but
yeah, but a lot of the work sites that you work at aren't probably too healthy either. We used to have a fog in one of the factories I was working. Definitely see it. Be like, that's going all into my lungs, and that's probably not healthy either. Very heavy element.
Yep, very much so. I mean, even like the older stuff that they used to use, that they stopped using, like the lead inside the paint chips. Yeah. The stuff, the stuff when we were kids. Yeah.
Yeah, paint.
The stuff in the insulation, the asbestos,
which is actually a crystal too. It's like tiger's eye. It's a very sharp rock, and that's why we used it. It was flame retardant. Didn't burn. Sounds great for insulation, but
not for your lungs.
No, not if you like breathing. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest form of chaos is entropy. We're all going. But it's really late for you. I know we talked a bit longer than we normally do, right? A little bit later. I don't want to keep you up all night.
Okay, yeah. It's 12:30 here, in the morning.
Yeah. You need some rest. What time are you waking up tomorrow?
I gotta get up for 6 probably because I gotta go back to work tomorrow.
Yeah, let's get you to pass out, and so you can. Here's the other thing about entropy and chaos. A lot of people I've learned, and I used to do swing shifts, okay, all the time. You can't ever catch up on sleep. There's no catching up on life. You can only recover from the lack of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to be,
Yeah, well, it's just like anything else, and you can only recover. You can't just, I guess there's no redos.
No redos, but you can take some of these experiences that we got, take some good stuff from it.
Yep.
Well, thank you for hanging out with me. I know it's super late for you, and we might have to set these on Saturday because I'm working now too. So.
Okay. All right.
If that works out, we'll play it by ear.
Whatever works. Yeah.
I appreciate it, your time.
I appreciate it too.
I appreciate you guys in chat, whoever's still out there. There's been a couple people talking in chat.
Oh, good. Okay.
My mother said, right, the community needs the help. Like old school days, neighbors always got involved. So yeah. It didn't really mesh with the conversation. I'm sure she's still hanging out, doing her garden.
I did earlier. It probably was an earlier message when we were talking about the school systems.
And then she mentioned rat burger. She's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Till next time, guys. I hope all your journeys are blessed, your endeavors fruitful, and
See you.